Hello again. Thank you for being with us in this experimentation project. We are now going to start to get into the fun part of the project. So let's search for Parse Server or Parse Platform on GitHub. Okay, I think we first need to download or clone the Parse Server example project. That would be this one. There are a lot of repositories in here which are useful. This is Parse SDK Android. That is what we'll be using in the Android Studio to build our app so that our app can be able to connect to the Parse server backend. So let's go in here. Okay, is there any stable releases? Let's see, version 1.1, okay, 2016. So apparently, Parse server hasn't been much released and as released as a version, stable version since 2016, which is kind of not so good, but it's okay. So one thing we could do clone clone this. So we'll go to command prompt and then say git, sorry, not git git clone, and then you put this. But first you have to be in the specific folder you want to save the cloned repository. But we're not going to do that because, let's do the GUI way. It's just a little bit, fun since we're not trying to look at command prompts all the time. So let's do that. We want to download the zip. Let's go to downloads, Parse server example master. Okay, these are the files. Let me just copy this. Let me go to desktop. And maybe just paste it here. Let's just call it, rename it to just Parse Server. And we want to be inside this folder, inside command prompt. Let me just run it as an administrator. We will be needing to install some packages globally. Now what we'll do, this folder is inside C users quantum desktop Parse server. So we want to change the directory cd and c:/users and then quantum q and then the desktop. When you just start writing a letter, for example D, you can click tab to kind of go through your options in that specific folder. In this case, quantum slash, we'll slash desktop, then slash again. We want to Parse server, and then click enter, and then done to check our contents. We are in the right folder, so that's good. Now let's go over the details of how to make Parse server work. table of contents, blah blah blah, Roku, Microsoft Azure. Okay, we want the local development. We want to make sure that Node is at least version 4.3. I think we have Node version 14 the last time we installed it, if you remember. Clone this repo and change its directory. So we should clone this repo. We have already did that. We just downloaded it instead of cloning it. So we have cloned it, and then now we are inside the folder. You can see our current working directory is inside the folder, and then we click on npm. We run the command npm install. Npm install. What that does is it fetches all the dependencies that Parse Server need, all the things it relies on. So you do need internet connection to do this. npm standing for Node Package Manager, if you remember. So let's click. Now a lot of the packages will be warning deprecated. If it's not an error, that's fine. It's just that the Node ecosystem is very active, if you will. The community of Node is very active. Packages keep on being updated from version 1 to version 2, version 3, version 3.4, version 5, version, all that kind of, all the packages. And Parse Server depends on a lot of packages, like for example barbell, some simple mailgun adapter, blah blah blah, all those packages. And the last time the Parse server was built, the release version was in 2016, and this is 2021. So a lot of updates have happened in the Parse server community. And sorry, in the node open source community. So that's why you get all these warnings of, for example, Babel. There has been a newer version, and version 10.1 is now considered deprecated, but that's fine. While it's doing, let's just what we need to do. Let's open this index.js file, because it's the kind of root file that when you're running a Node application, Node will first try to read this index.js file. That's usually the convention. It doesn't always have to be, but mostly that's the root file. While it's doing that, let's go and fetch. Let's fetch our. We don't really. Let's just do that again. Let's just search it online. MongoDB connection string. Okay, I think we already have a template here. So database URL, we'll just click this, remove all of this, but we don't want slash div. Now this O operator means if this variable is set, in this case it's set, then use this, else you should use this. We don't need to put this else. This is fine, we don't need to change this. This app ID is very relevant, is the application ID of our Parse Server instance. By default is my app ID, but I think we should change it to, let's say, clue clue maybe clue. Let's just leave it clue. Let me just add a number in the front just to be specific that we're just to kind of differentiate between when we are asked the app ID or something else. The master key, let's make it maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can just delete this. Let's see where this is. Also, I like us to be looking at tax manager. It's very relevant. I don't know, as a developer, I find it very useful to just monitor what's going on inside a computer. By default, if you open it, it's going to look like this, but you can click more details to see all the additional contents, the CPU and all the other. Let's take the services. We want to make sure our MongoDB is running. So MongoDB server, it's stopped right now. So I believe we want to turn it on. Okay, now it's running. NPM audit fix, blah blah blah. I think all these are warnings, so let's just try to continue. We don't need this anymore. Um, Run Mongo to connect to your database just to make sure it's working. Once you see a Mongo prompt, exit with Control D. Okay, let's try to run Mongo. You know what? Let's not do that. Let's just try npm start. Let's try to run the Parse server. Now, one thing to note is that you have to be. Let me just clear the screen. Your current working directory has to be the specific folder where the Parse server files or the Parse server project is located. So this specific folder, in this case, it is located under C users quantum desktop Parse server. As you can see here, that is exactly where the files are. Initially, when we downloaded this Parse server example master, it was just 20 something kilobyte. But now that we have downloaded all the dependencies, when you click on the properties here, this folder is almost 200 megabyte because of all the dependencies that Parse server has downloaded due to the npm install command we ran earlier. So let's try to start Parse server. by running the command npm start. So node package manager start. So this npm start, it actually translates to, we want to accept, allow it in the firewall, allow access. This npm start also translates to these two commands, parse server example start blah blah blah, and then node index.js. So it calls the node runtime environment on this specific file, the file that we have opened, this index.js, the root file, the kind of like the first file that the node application starts. So now let's try to access the Parse server on this specific port. So what we'll do is, since it's running on this server, that would be localhost because it's running on the local machine, and then on port 1337, then enter. Okay, so good job. Parse server has the server service has been installed, kind of has been set up successfully. So this is fine. So let's try to test it. You can click /test. Now take note that in our app ID, we change it to clue note 5. So we also need to do that. So here it said we'll use an app ID of my app ID. That's the default app ID, and which we have changed. So we also need to change it here. So we are going to change it to clue note 5. Clue note 5. You need to change this, if not, your test will not be successful. So let's try to post data. Posting has been done successfully. Let's try to fetch it. That is also successfully. And then everything is fine. So our Parse server has been set up successful. Our Parse server instance is running successfully, and it is able to post data to the backend. Let's check on that by visiting the Mongo Compass. Let's go to MongoDB Compass. We want to make sure that this data has been posted successfully inside the server, inside the MongoDB database. It has been saved successfully. So that's why we are running this Mongo Compass, the GUI, to view your database. So we want to connect to the local MongoDB database instance. It is connected successfully, and then you can see this database has been created test, and then inside test there is this game scope. So that is exactly what this test link does for Parse server, for you to test that everything is fine. So when you click on it inside this game score, there's this player name Shen plot, and then cheat mode false and score 1337. When you go here, that is exactly what we have. So that means everything is fine. The 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 object has been saved to the MongoDB database instance successfully. And again, by default, MongoDB doesn't have any access control list. So that's why Parse Server was able to save this data into MongoDB without requiring any username or password security or authorization. Okay, this is it for now. We have successfully set up our Parse server. Thank you very much. In the next video, I think we'll try and set up the Parse dashboard so that we don't have to use MongoDB Compass every single time. Thank you.